Daf Chav Zayin Amid Aleph, Perak Sheni. Hashoichet echad ba'of ushnayim b'behema shchitas okshera. When you shecht, so if you do one siman by an oaf and two simanim by a behema, then your shchita is kosher. So by an oaf you only have to do one, by a behema you have to do two. V'rubo shel echad kamahu, and rov is enough. Rabbi Yehuda mer achi yishchod et avridin. Rabbi Yehuda says that it's until you shech the vridin. What are the vridin? Rashi says it's the main blood vessels of the neck, which many say this is the jugular vessels, the jugular veins. And the Rambam says that these are the two blood vessels on both sides of the trachea, called the carotid arteries. So either way, lamaisa, however you pronounce it, the carotid arteries. Karate. Sounds good. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yehuda says you have to shecht these things besides for the rov. It means rov is not enough. Since we said that, again, rov is okay. Obviously, if you have half, that means half of one by an oaf and 1.5, or really half and half. It says 1.5, but it's really half and half by a behemoth. Shchitas psula. Rov echad ba'of or rov shnayim behemoth shchitas okshera. The Gemara is going to ask that. It seems to be a little bit superfluous. Obviously, if you do rov of 1 by an oaf and rov of 2 by a behemoth, it's going to be kosher. That's what the Gemara says. So again, bottom line is you need one siman cut by an oaf, or at least rov of a siman cut by an oaf, and you need two simanim or rov of the simanim cut by a behema. Hashoichet di'avadin lechatchila lo. The word hashoichet, as we said before, seems to imply b'di'avad. So b'di'avad, yes, lechatchila lo. Well, it's hard to say hashoichet shnayim b'behema is b'di'avad. What does that mean? Like, what else you want me to do? Shnayim b'behema lechatchila lo ad kama lishcha v'lezel. How much you want me to shecht in order to be yotzei the mitzvah? Says the Gemara, you're right. The hashochet, the di'evet part, is not on the 2 by behema. That's the chatchila. What's the di'evet part of the Mishnah? Either the fact that you only have to cut 1 by an oaf, it's b'di'evet. The Iba Yisema seems to say, no, even 1 by an oaf is not b'di'evet, that's the chatchila. The b'di'evet is the rov. That if you only do rubo of 1 or rubo of 2, that's b'di'evet. So that's how it comes out. L'chatchila yishacht 2 by a behema. L'chatchila yishacht only 1 by an oaf, it sounds like. B'di'evet, if you shecht rov of 2 by a behema and rov of 1 by an oaf, then shchitasa will be kshera. Amarav Kehana. So we're going to spend the next rest of today trying to find a source for shchita on the neck. Why shchita on the throat? Amarav Kehana minayin l'shchita shehiminat savar. How do you know that shchita is done on the throat, as Rashi says the Garon? Shenemar v'shachar ben abakar. We're going to do a lot of play on words. V'shachar ben abakar. You have to shecht the animal. Mimakom sheshach, from the place that it bends over. Shekofef, that it bends over. Chateyu. You should go ahead and you should chateyu. What does chateyu mean? Rashi says either hichshiru la'achila v'tiarahu. Either you should machshir it, or lishna achrina, you should bichateyu hotzi es damo v'nakeyu. So either means to machshir it, or to take out all the blood and clean it. Chateyu, again, according to the second opinion, is dechihoy, is to like clean it. Lishna kama, and then according to the lishna kama, garsinan deachshurehu. So it's either you should cut it in the place that it bends over, to clean it, to be machshir it. B'maydahai chateyu lishna dedichoyhu. How do you know that it's lishna of dichoy, which would be to be motzi es adam, to clean it? You okay?
Just a bad cough.
Okay. Fu shlema. And according to Lishna Kama, we would say, how do you know that it means la'achshero, to kosher it? Dichsiv v'chiteyas habayis. Who's that? That's the Kohen. When he comes to clean up the tzaras, he's got to be machshir the bayis. He's got to clean up the house from the tzaras. So you see that either way, it means to clean / machshir it. How do you do that? By cutting it in the spot that it's shach. You should clean it / machshir it in the spot that it bends. Says in Gemara, another pasuk, Techateni be'ezov ve'etaher. Who's that? David HaMelech. Says in Tehillim, you should cleanse me, you should clean me, you should kosher me with an azov. We know that an azov is used for different, for koshering different types of people, right? So ve'etaher, I should be torah from my sins. So the question becomes, if it's going to be something, so that's what the Gemara means. So you should go ahead and you should kosher it / clean it in the place where it bends over. Says the Gemara, that's not the only place of an animal that it bends over with its neck. Where else does it bend over?
Legs.
Well, not just the legs. So it's not using the legs as bending over. Ve'ema mizanvo. What about the tail? The tail, it bends the tail all the time. Shach miklal shezaku bina v'ashach ve'omidu. No. We want to cut it in a place, shechita, that you're going to cut it in a place that it chooses to bend over, not that it's bending all the time. That means the tail is forever bending. The neck is straight a lot of times. You need to cut in the place that's usually straight, but that it bends sometimes. Ve'ema me'azno. Right, I don't know if anybody here can do it, but some people can do it, and animals can do it too. They can bend their ozen. Now he means like this, but some people can do it without even touching their ears. But the animals can bend their ears if they need to. So maybe if that bends, so you could do the shchita on the ear. Says Gemara, Ba'inan dam hanefesh v'leka. The pasuk says, Damo ben avshohu. You need to do it in a place where you have dam hanefesh. We know that dam hanefesh is something that there's different types of blood. There's dam hanefesh, there's dam hatamtsis, which is the oozing blood, and then there's dam ha'ivarim, the blood that's absorbed in the organs and the tissues. So I'm not sure which one I would have thought that it would have been dam hanefesh even in the ear while it's alive, but it sounds like he's not treating it as dam hanefesh.
Why am I not worried about tzar b'lechem? You could cut an animal, a cow, an ox by the ear. You're not going to kill that animal.
Ve'ema dekara va'azil adam hanefesh. So the Gemara suggests, like Rabbi Black is asking, well, it's not exactly the impetus of their question. Their impetus of the question was that it's not dam hanefesh. But the Gemara says, okay, so you need dam hanefesh, just start at the ear, and then just cut all the way through, from the ear to the neck. Now you're right, it doesn't seem to be concerned with tzar b'lechem, because at the end of the day, if the pasuk says vishachat, so then whatever the pasuk tells us to do, it's what I need to do. So the Gemara says, Ve'ema dekar v'azel adam hanefesh. If the concern is that you're not cutting dam hanefesh, so then start from the ear, which bends, and cut all the way from the ear through the neck. And you get rid of dam hanefesh. That's the first question. Visu, the second question is, Shehiyah draso chalada agram avikar minala. The second question is, furthermore, how do you know that the other 5 things are going to ruin shchita? We said that there are 5 different things that ruin shchita: the burrowing, and the cutting above the spot, and the pressing, and the pausing, etc. Where are those from? Says the Gemara, where do we know this from? Halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Ella Gemara. It's halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Shchita min hatzavar nami Gemara. So the Gemara is going to come out, the next 5 examples, that l'maisa, how do you know that shchita needs to be done on the throat? Halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Just like you know the other 5 things, halacha miSinai. So then the only question becomes, so then what do we do with this pasuk? V'shachat. Seems to be that at the place of the, right, we definitely still have a limud. You could say it's an asmachta, but is there any other limud we want to make from vishachat, that in the place of bending in the throat? We already know that it's halacha Moshe miSinai. Through a Mesorah, they need to do it at the throat. So what does vishachat teach me? Ukra l'mayasa, and the Gemara is going to use this for the next few. Delo l'shavya gistera. You don't have to split the throat into 2. That means if you wouldn't have had vishachat, so you would have done what? You would have done it halacha Moshe miSinai in the throat, but you would have literally like decapitated the animal. You don't have to decapitate the animal. Why not? The pasuk says vishachat. What does that mean? Rashi shelo yachto kol mafrekas hashnayim, right to the right. Tahachi mashma chatehu hotzi as damo v'sulo. When we say chatehu, that you should be machshir it, you should take out the dam. You should only take out the dam, but not more. When we say you should machshir, you should only be machshir it in the spot where you need to be machshir, and not more. That's what vishachat means. In the place that it bends, but only chatehu in that place. Wherever you learn what the word chateu is. Either just be machshir it by cutting the simanim, clean out the blood by, again, taking out the blood where he needs to, but don't decapitate the animal. So how do I know you need shchita in the throat? How do I know that I don't have to cut off the entire head? From the pasuk v'shachat. Rav Yemer Amar Krav v'zavachta. He gives a different, again, they're all going to come out with the same ending, but they're all coming with a different source. V'zavachta, you have to shacht an animal. How do you know that it has to be by the throat? Mimakom shezav chatehu. From the place that it's zav, from the place that it flows, that the blood flows, you have to go ahead and kill it. The blood flows from the throat. My mashmad hay chatehu lishna demit barhu, and that means chatehu. According to this, you have to like break it. You have to break it and shacht it in the place that the blood flows. How do you know that the word chatehu means over here to what? Means to break. Again, it's different than chatehu with a tet on top. To clean and to be machshir. This is chatehu, to like break. How do you know that it means chatehu? Which is interesting. V'zavachta, again, because it's going based on a play of words. Zav, vachta is zav and chatehu. So how do you know you have to break it in that spot? Al tira ve'al techas. So you shouldn't be nervous, you shouldn't break. So that means you have to do it again in the place that blood flows. Ve'ema mechotamo. Maybe it just means zav, you have to do it in a place that flows. Well, something else flows, mucus flows. Where does it flow from? From the nose. So maybe you have to shacht an animal in the nose. Zav, what?
Why don't they go to the heart?
Zav al yidei chitoy bayin. 1 second. V'hayzav me'elafu. You don't do it in the nose because we need something that flows as a result of the shchita. The mucus is always coming out of the animal, even without the shchita. Ve'ema milibo. Why don't we say from the heart, like the rabbi asks? I understand. It flows, blood flows from the heart. Visu, that's what the Gemara's question is. Visu, he did this last night. Visu shehia drasa chalada agrama ve'ikar minalan. Furthermore, how do you know that these 5 other things are going to be a problem? You're right, because of your question. Ela Gemara, shchita minatzavar nami Gemara. You're right. You're right, it's not a basis, because if it was based on flow, then you would do it in the heart. You literally would just take a thing and you would like do shchita right here. So says the Gemara, rather, just like the other 5 things are halacha l'moshe misina, the 5 things that passel shchita, so to shchita from the throat is halacha l'moshe kral lamayasa. So what do you do with the pasuk vizavachta? What does that have to do with flowing? Delo l'shavia gistera. That again, you only cut it in the place that it's flowing, but you only do it until what? Until it stops flowing. At sheyazo v'sulo. You don't have to do more. You just do until it until the place that it flows, i.e., from the throat and not more. That's why you do it in the throat. In Achanami, but halacha l'moshe misina. Halacha l'moshe misina could have been to do it in the heart, and we wouldn't have asked any questions. Halacha l'moshe misina is to do it in the throat, but only until the place that it only in the place that it until the place that it flows, i.e., you don't have to decapitate the entire animal.
The Gemara said from the heart we'd ask questions. Why from the heart, not from the neck?
Right, in Achanami, but halacha l'moshe misina.
Are we going to learn about two simonim?
Eventually. But again, we're just asking about what do you need to know about the shchita for. To Bay Rabbi Shmuel Tana v'shachat, al tukei v'shachat ella v'sachat. Interesting. Mimachom shesach chateyu, from the place that it gives out a voice. So it's v'shachat, v'sachat. You cut it in the place, you clean out the place, you machshir the place, you take out the blood in the place that it motzi kol. Says Gemara v'ema milashono. Yeah, but use your tongue to also give out a kol. V'inan dama nefesh v'leka. You don't have dama nefesh. V'ema dekar v'azil dama nefesh. So cut the tongue. Forget about tzar b'alachaim for a second. Cut the tongue and go all the way from the tongue through into the throat. Why do we start at the throat? V'su, and furthermore, shia drasa chalada agrama v'ikar minalan. What about these 5? Ela gemara shchita minatzavar nami gemara. Ukral l'mayasa. So again, same thing. Halacha l'moshe. So what do you now do with the pasuk of v'shachat? What does that have to do with anything? Delo l'shavia gistra. Again, v'shachat, you only cut it until the part that you get rid of the motzi kol, which is where? Which is the throat. But you don't have to decapitate the entire animal. So that's what we have. Halacha l'moshe, you need shchita, and then these psukim are all telling me not to decapitate the animal, not to cut all the way to the back of the throat, just to cut it in the spot, until the spot that it flows, that the coal comes out, etc. V'tana ma'isi lamehacha. Number 4. Another source, the Tanya. Rabbi Chia amar minayin l'shchita minat savar shenemar v'yarchu b'nei Aaron hakohanim eis hanetachim. The pasuk says that by an ola, so the kohanim have to take the pieces, es harosh v'es hapader, the head and the pader, v'yarchu, and they have to put him on the eitz asher ala eish asher leitzim asher ala mizbeach. So they have to put the pieces on the mizbeach. What's the steps of an ola? You shech the animal, you skin him, you put the pieces on the mizbeach. You don't skin the rosh, as the Gemara is going to say. Because you only skin the things that were around at the time of the shechita. The head was already separated. By definition, when you did the shechita, you separated the head. So you don't skin the head. So the Gemara is going to ask, says the Gemara, what do you have to tell me the rosh and the pader? If you tell me you put all the pieces on the mizbeach, that includes the rosh and the pader, that includes the head and the fats. What do you have to specify the heads and the fat? They're part of the pieces. Because it says that you skin it, and then you cut it up into pieces. So you might think, what? The pieces that we're referring to that go on the Mizbeach are only the pieces that we refer to that you cut, and that you skin. But the ones that you don't skin, you don't put on the Mizbeach. How do you know the rosh, which is not going to be skinned? Because again, the commandment to skin is only things that are not yet taken off. The Gemara is going to ask in a second. It should have said Tamulomer es harosh v'es hapader. You're bringing me another pasuk now. But it says, Tamulomer es rosho v'es pidor v'arach. That what? Mitikamer es harosh shekvar hutaz miklal d'shchita minat savar. So beforehand, the Gemara says, well, before that last line, the Gemara basically says that you need to tell me es harosh v'es pidro, es harosh v'es hapader. You need to specify those because you would have thought you only put on the mizbeach things that are skinned, since the rosh and the fat are not necessarily skinned. So l'maisa, you don't go ahead and you don't put them on the mizbeach. Therefore, it includes as a rosh v'esapad, even though you're not skinning them and they're not considered to be part of nitachim that were skinned. You still have to put them on the mizbeach. But what do you see from here? The fact that it's considering the rosh, it's saying the rosh is not skinned. Why is the rosh not skinned? Because the rosh is already separated from the head at that time. Well, how did the rosh get separated from the head? How did it get separated from the body? Through shchita, obviously. Where Well, in the place that it would separate the head from the body, i.e., from the throat. That's its proof. Midakamar, 1 second. Esarosha kvar hutas miklal deshchita minat savar. From the fact that this brisa says that what? That you're taking the rosh, which was already cut off, it implies that the shchita that you did got the rosh off. How did the shchita that you did get the rosh off? Only if you did it from the throat.
Yeah, but you didn't. But we kept being told, but you don't cut the whole head off.
You kept right. So the Gemara is again. You don't cut the whole head off. The point is that once Rashi actually says that. No, Rashi says. Rashi says that once the two simanim are off, that's enough. Where is that? Rashi here. Minayin lerabos, right? Minayin lerabos. Biklal aricha games harosha eno biklal afshata sharei hutas b'shchita kodem afshata dekevan denichtichu simanim kari lehutas. Once the simanim are cut, it's considered as if it's off the body. Later it comes off. But the point is that it's not skinned. It's not skinned. It's not skinned. So you might think that it doesn't go on the mizbeach because it's not skinned. It says the Gemara, even though it's not skinned, it's put on the mizbeach. But the point is that it's considered to be separated and therefore not skinned since it was separated at the time of the shechita. Well, how do you separate the head at the time of the shechita unless the shechita is done on the throat? Says the Gemara, "V'tana padak b'rosho padak misayim b'rosho pidro." Like I pointed out, the Gemara said, "V'archu b'nei Aaron hakoni mesanet achim she'ein tam lo mer esrosho asapader." What does it say esrosho asapader? To teach me this thing that they also go even though they're not skinned. But if you look at the brayse, it said lefish nemar v'yishad es ha'olav v'nitach. The end it said es rosho v'es pidro v'arach. It separates rosho and pidro twice. It should have answered es rosho es apader, but it answered es rosho v'es pidro. The Gemara is going to say you're right. Hachi kamar minayin l'rabba says rosho kvar hutas tam lo mer es rosho es apader. Right, the brayse was a little bit misquoted. But still, the Gemara wants to know, there's another pasuk, when it reviews again in the same parsha, it says Rosho v'es pidro separate again. So the first thing teaches me that what? The rosh and the pader have to go on the mizbeach, even though they're not skinned. But what's the second time that it specifies es harosh v'es hapader? V'rosho pidro lamali. Why does it specify it again? Mi ba'ile l'chidetani mi rayin l'rosh u'pader shekod min l'chol anitachim tamulomar es rosho v'es pidro v'arach. So there's two limudim. The one time you need to separate and specify rosh and pader is to tell me that they go on the mizbeach in the first place, even though they're not skinned. The second time it specifies it specifically before the word v'arach to tell you not only do they go on the mizbeach, they're the first things that are put on the mizbeach, the rosh and the pader. That's a Gemara. Says a Gemara on the top. Upader kama dechaz rachman alamali. Gemara asks a very interesting question. He says, I understand why you need a separate limud to tell me that the rosh goes on the mizbeach because it's not skinned. But what's the havamina that the fat would not go on the mizbeach? Why is that not a piece? Because I understand there's a havamina the rosh wouldn't because it's not skinned, but the fat which doesn't have any skin to take off anyway, like why would you think that you don't put that on the mizbeach? Says the Gemara, you're right. We don't need it. There's no havamina that you wouldn't put the fat on the mizbeach. So what's the extra limud, the extra reason that it mentions pader? Very interesting. After they take off the head and they put it on, so there's obviously blood on the mizbeach a lot, but the Gemara says that there was a lot of blood on the neck of the animal because that's where it was cut. So if you take the rosh, I don't know how they did this. If you take the rosh and you put it on the mizbeach, there's a lot of blood there. So what do? It's not kavod Hashem to have so much blood on the neck. So what do? They took the fat and they put it around the neck in order to clean up the neck a little bit. That's what the word pader means. Therefore, lemaisa, that's what it's for. They put it chofes apader al beis hashchitu maleyu v'zeu terech kavod shel malo. When they would offer it on the mizbeach, they would actually cover plastic surgery. They would cover the thing of the head. Okay?
It's a bandage, really, more.
It's more like a bandage. So that's what rosh and pader is. But again, the point that we brought this whole brayso was to show you that clearly the rosh is cut at the throat, because at the end of the day, how else would it have been separated from the body? Another brisa, Detanya. Zos Torahs, and we're going to learn this from Rabbi Eliezer in the brisa, but it's a very interesting brisa. The Gemara says that the pasuk says Zos Torahs ha-behema va'of. This is the law of the behema and the oaf. So there's obviously a connection between a behema and an oaf. V'chi be'eza Torah shafsa behema l'oaf va'of lebehema. Where do we see that an oaf and a behema have similar laws? It's not in the following. Behema metama b'magu masa, oaf eina metama b'magu b'masa. We know the halacha is that by a kosher animal that becomes a nevela, if you touch it, you become tameh. If you carry it, you and your clothing become tameh. But we said numerous times that a kosher bird that becomes a nevela, if you touch it, you do not become tameh. That's one difference. But then the opposite difference, by an oaf, We know an oaf is metame begadim abeis habliya. Behema ina metame begadim abeis habliya. It means even though if you touch an animal, you become tamei. If you carry it, you become tamei, and your clothing becomes tamei. But an oaf, if you touch, you don't become tamei. The opposite is true if you swallow it. If somebody forces, because you have to obviously touch it in order to swallow it, usually. But if you're able to eat a behema without touching it, and you swallowed it, you will not become tamei. By eating a nevela, again, you're doing something wrong, but you don't become tamei by eating a kosher behema that's a nevela. Somebody would shove a piece of nevela steak down your throat, you will not become tamei. But if somebody shoves a piece of nevela oaf down your throat, a kosher oaf, you will become tamei, and your clothing will become tamei as well. So those
chewing considered touching?
So it doesn't sound. I don't know. It's a good question. I would think so. So what exactly? That's how they're not similar. How are they similar? Just like a behema with shchita and oaf get shchita, iman halam berov shnayim afkan berov shnayim tamalomar zos. Zos Torah sa behema ve'of. So according to Tanakama, you're learning from a behema to an oaf. A behema gets shchita, therefore an oaf also gets shchita. Why doesn't an oaf get 2 simanim like a behema needs 2 simanim? Because zos, only the law of shchita you learn from a behema to an oaf, and not the law of 2 simanim. Now again, this is not what we need, because this is very nice telling me that a behema gets shchita, so does an oaf, but it doesn't tell me the source of the shchita, which is what we're looking for. Where do we see it? From Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer Omer that we don't compare in this pasuk what zos Torah sa behema to oaf. In the Tanakama, we're going behema to oaf. In the Rabbi Eliezer, we're going oaf to behema. We're learning from oaf to behema. What are we learning? You know why you need shchita by a behema? Because just like you need malika by the neck of a bird. So if you're telling me that the reason you need shchita by a neck, by a throat, is because you learn from a bird, so why don't we do shchita in the back of the animal, like we do by a bird? Tamulomar umalak es rosho mimul arpo v'lo yavdil, rosho shel zeh mimul oref ein rosho shel acher mimul oref. So we learn from a bird that you need to do the shchita at the throat. Why not in the back? Because it says mimul arpo, only the mul arpo of an oaf do you go in the back. But by a behema, you would do a similar thing, just you would do it in the front. So if I ask you, according to this mandam, how do you know shchita needs to be on the throat? We learned it from a lika of a bird, even though we know that it's not going to be mimul arpo, but it's going to be from a lika of a bird. For Rabbi Eliezer, hai zos my avilei. According to Rabbi Eliezer, if you're learning from oaf to a behema, not behema to oaf, so then what do you do with the word zos? Because again, vizos, according to the Tanakama, when you're learning behema to an oaf, zos tells me that what? You learn shchita of an oaf from a behema, but Zos tells me only learn the shchita, not the halacha of 2 simanim. But if you're learning oaf to behema now, so what does the Zos tell me that only by an oaf and not by a behema? The other way. So if you're learning from an oaf to a behema, you say, just like by an oaf, you need to cut it in the throat, i.e. in the back of the neck. Therefore, by shchita, you need to do it in the front of the neck. So what do I need? Vizos. Zos tells me to limit that comparison from an oaf to behema, because then you would have said go all the way. Just like by an oaf, what? You only have to cut 1 siman. By a behema, you only cut 1 siman. Zos only learn this law from oaf to behema, i.e. that shchita needs to be in the throat. Don't learn the law that it needs to be 1 siman, because by a behema, it needs to be 2 simanim. That's what the Gemara says. Okay, now we're going to go a little bit of a, those are the 5 or 6 different options. Again, according to the last two, we don't say Gemara Gemirala. That's not halacha Moshe Misina necessarily. Right. We have different sources. But it comes out, if I ask you, Lamaisa, chances are most people would say that the reason that shchita needs to be on the throat is because of halacha Moshe Misina. We have a few different interesting limudim here.
How do we know an oaf is only 1 simon?
Didn't we have that already? Well, I'm saying the Mishnah says a shochet of what's the source? The Gemara is going to tell us. The Gemara is going to tell us.
I thought Zos
what?
is plural.
No.
Zos is plural. That's Zos. This is with behema.
Again, Zos is telling me right. So according to this mandamar, it's Zos. If you're learning from behema to oaf, you're saying Zos. This one needs 2, but this one doesn't need 2. This one needs 1. Is enough. But the Gemara is going to make another diuk over here. Okay, says the Gemara. Again, Ma'of b'siman echad. Rashi actually Tosfos quotes that it's according to another thing. You say umalak v'lo yavdil, umalak in the singular. So there's different sources. Tani bar kafra. So either it's from behema because vizos it limits the comparison to behema. Umalak v'lo yavdil. We're going to see another one here that it's somewhere interestingly between fish and behemas. Let's see that right now. Good question. Tani bar kafra. Zos toras ha behema ve'of. Hitil akasav va'of bein behema l'dagim. If you go to that parsha where it talks about behema ve'of, it talks about behema. Then it talks about oaf. Then it talks about dagim. Why? L'chayvo b'shnei samanim yefshar shekvar hukash l'dagim. How do you know that you need one by an oaf? Gershon's question. Well, you can't have two because what? Even though it puts it next to behema, it puts it next to dagim. Lipocho below klumi yefshar shekvar hukash l'behema. We say, okay, so then it's like dagim. It doesn't need any simanim because you don't have to do shchit on it. But that's impossible because it's by behema, which needs two. Ha ketza. What do you do? Hilchshir b'siman echad. So it's like a default. It's not a behema and it's not a dog. Behema needs two, dog needs none. So it's in the middle, it's one by default. Now the Gemara says, Dagim delav b'nei shchita ninu minolo. How do you know that the dagim don't need any simanim, i.e. that they don't have to be shechted? Maybe you have to take a dog, it would be very hard, but maybe you have to take a dog out of the water and then shecht it. Because you have a pasuk that says that when Hashem tells Moshe, the animals you have to shecht, and the dagim you just gather. What does that imply? Ba'asifa ba'amasagil. You don't have to shech them. You just gather them. Says Gemara, that's a nice pshat. Only one problem. Elameata gabe slav dechsiv vayasves slav. By the slav, where they were complaining about meat, so Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Go gather the slav." Now, according to your svara, that anytime it says gather, it means not to shecht. You're claiming that the slav didn't have to be shechted. It's impossible. We know that we have to slaughter a bird. You just finished telling me that you have to slaughter birds. At least midirabanan. Hachanami delav b'shchita. Does that mean the slav doesn't have to be shechted? V'hamarta lepotro b'velo klumi efshar shekvar hukash b'hema. You said you can't pater a dog without. You can't pater. You just finished telling me you can't pater an oaf, which is slav. Slav is like a chicken. It's like a bird. Can't pater a bird with anything because it's compared to a behema. Hasam lo kesiva asifa b'makom shchita dachrini. Hach kesiva asifa b'makom shchita dachrini. No. Look at the psukim. The pasuk by dog says you shecht an animal, you gather a dog. When it's talking about gathering relative to shchita, that means this one doesn't need shchita. You just gather it. But if it just says by itself to gather the slav, that doesn't necessarily mean without shchita. It's just gathering relative to shchita, that means you don't need shchita. But gathering by itself could mean gather it after you shecht it. That's what Gemara says. So again, an oaf needs one, behema needs two, dagim needs nothing. Listen to this. This is interesting drush. Darash over glila. Behema shenivris minei abasha hochshra b'shnei simanim. You know why a behema needs two? Because it was created from the ground. And Rashi says very interesting. Rashi says, min hayabasha lefichach yesh lo chiyuz bari v'chazak. Since it was created from the ground, it's very strong. And it's interesting. I saw it brought down. I think he brings down the bottom of the article over there something about the malach hamavis, which I found to be very interesting. He says, what if it's created from the ground? So it's a very strong animal. It's going to take the malach hamavis to really kill him. So you need to do your thing. If you don't do both simanim, then we're going to assume that the malach hamavis killed him and not you, and then you can't eat it. So since it's a strong animal, you got to cut both simanim. Dagim shenivru min hamayim ichshiram bevelo klum. The dagim which are in the water, which are very weak animals, you take them out of the water for 5 seconds, they're done. Therefore, you don't have to even shech them. Oaf shenivru min haraka kichshu b'siman echad. An oaf, as we'll see in a second, was created from a combination of yabasha and water. What's that? Mud. So the birds were created from mud, so it's in between, it only needs one. I was curious, if you use that about the thing about the malach hamavis, it means the malach hamavis is very strong by a behema, and it's not so strong by a dog, because you don't really need the malach hamavis so much by a dog, because it sort of like is very weak and dies anyway. I thought maybe that's why we always say v'yidgu laro b'kerev ha'aretz, that we give a bracha, it should be like a dog, because it's under the water, that it should not have an ayin hara. Maybe also you should be like a dog, because the malach hamavis is not sholit so much on a dog. Okay, ayin the svarim hakadoshim. Amar Shmuel kiputka teida. I have a proof that an oaf is a combination of yabasha and water. Shaharei ofos yeshan kaskeseb ragleim kedagim. I never saw this. Maybe I'll check today. Yeah. On the bottom of a chicken, they have scales like a dog.
Yeah, chicken feet. Their feet look like scales.
They look like scales. Maybe they're not scales. Very interesting. Okay, so again, comes out next time you eat chicken, just know it came from the mud. Ve'od shalu kasu echad omer. So let's see. So where does this come from? It all comes from Sukkim. It's not made up. You see that it compares, it puts Oaf right after Dagim. So it seems like the Oaf comes from the water, just like Dagim does. But then it says, when it talks about them coming to Adam to see if he's a proper mate for them and to give them names, it compares and it puts Oaf next to the regular animals. So which one is it? Alma mi'ara ivru, amar lo. So he said, min ha-rekek nivru. It's from rekek. It's from, is it rekek or rakak?
I have rakak here.
Okay. It's from rakak. It's from mud. So Rav Shmuel's Talmidim didn't like this. Mistachel b'zeh b'zeh. You know, like you see your students sometimes looking at each other. Amar lahem, kasha beinechem shadachisi esoivai bekash. You don't like the weak answer I just gave. Min hamayim nivus, I'll tell you the truth. They came from mayim. Okay? However, v'ot shalu, by the way, v'ot shalu was the general used to ask Rabbi Gamliel a lot of questions. The Roman general used to ask Rabbi Gamliel a lot of questions. So this is one of the questions. So Rabbi Gamliel's students are like looking at him like, what a weak answer. So he says to them, okay, you're right. I'll tell you the truth. It's not that they were created from rakak, that they were created from mud. Rather, what? Min hamayim nivru. They were actually created like fish from the mayim. So what does the pasuk mean when it puts it next to the chayos hasadeh? V'lam haviyan el adam likros lan shem. It's not telling you that it was created similar to the other animals. It just puts it in the category because unlike fish, which were never brought to Adam to see if he would mate with them and to see if he would call them names, they were not called names. Unlike fish, even though Oaf was created like fish from the mayim, it was also brought in front of Adam to give it names and to see if maybe one of them was his proper mate. That's what the Gemara says. So again, according to the Havamina, according to the way that he answered the general, the Oaf is made from mud. According to the way that he told his students, the Oaf is actually made from mayim, but Lamaisa, it's going to, but it puts it in the pasuk with the animals because Adam called it names. V'yesh omrim, some say the opposite, v'lashon echa acher amar loso halgamon, or the opposite. He really told the general that they really come from water, etc. And Adam was just naming them. And then when it was his students, so then it was the opposite. When it was his students, he told them that it comes from mud, and they didn't give any looks. Fine. Amar Yehuda mishum Rav Yitzchak ben Pinchas. We'll just do this a little bit today, and then this will be tomorrow's daf. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav Yitzchak ben Pinchas, Ein shchita la'of min haTorah. Min haTorah, there's no shchita for a bird. Right? You learned it from behema, but min haTorah, it's only midirabanan. Min haTorah, you don't have to do shchita, only for an animal. Shenemar, how do you know that? V'shafach, because it says v'shafach, it tells us by a bird. We know that by a bird, a kosher bird, and by a kosher non-domesticated animal, a chaya, like a deer, which is kosher. So you have to do what? You have to do kisoy hadam. So it says the word vishafach, you pour the blood. What does that mean, you pour the blood? So we think it means you just take the blood and you pour it on the ground. He's learning that vishafach means you literally kill it in a way that the blood pours, i.e. not through shchita. You just kill it however you want, and lemaisa it's going to pour out. Now we're going to see that even though it says not through shchita, what it seemingly implies that even if you don't have to do shchita, you still would have to do what we mentioned a few weeks ago. You'd still have to do nicher. You'd have to like pierce it in the simanim. Or you'd have to do okro. You'd have to tear the simanim. It sounds like the Gemara doesn't have any havamina that you don't have to break the simanim. The question is, you have to do it through shchita, or can you do it even through tearing or through piercing? So the Gemara says, V'shafach b'shvika b'amasagi. When it talks about a bird, it says v'shafach. Therefore, we assume it doesn't need shchita. It's enough to just kill it in another way and let the blood flow. Ihachi chayanami. We know a chaya needs shchita. But if you tell me the whole source of an oaf not needing shchita is because it says v'shafach, a chaya which also needs kisoy adam is also included in that pasuk. So v'shafach, you should be able to kill a chaya however you want also. If you want to eat a deer, you shouldn't have to shecht it. You should be able to go ahead and do nicher on it or whatever you want. So that's the Gemara, itkish lipsule hamikdashin. No, you're right, it says v'shafach, but there's a hekesh between a chaya and psulei hamukdashin, something that's supposed to be hekdesh and it gets pasul, you still have to shecht it. So that, just like that needs to be shechted, so too a chaya needs to be shechted, even though the word v'shafach is in that pasuk. Auf nami itkesh lebehema, but you have a hekesh between, if you're going to tell me that you're making hekeshim to push off the word v'shafach, you have a hekesh between an oaf and a behema. D'chsiv zos toras habehema ve'of. So even though it says v'shafach over here by the pasuk, by kisoy adam, you should make the hekesh to an animal and say, just like an animal needs shchita, so does an oaf. Says the Gemara, haksiv v'shafach estamo. No, it says v'shafach es damo. The shafach is stronger than the hekesh. It says Gemara, my chazis t'shadi le'al of shadi achaya. Okay, very nice. Make up your mind. If you want to make the hekesh is great, then make the hekesh for an oaf also. If you don't want to make the hekesh is, so then don't make the hekesh and then say that a chaya also can just be killed. It says Gemara, mistabra mishum desalik minei. No, look at the pasuk. The pasuk says, o of asher yeochal v'shafach es damo. The word v'shafach is right next to oaf. Therefore, even though you have hekeshes, l'maisa you make the hekesh by a chaya, that a chaya needs to have shchita, just like psulei hamikdashin needs shchita, but l'maisa, an oaf, which is right next to the word v'shafach, it doesn't have to necessarily be shachted, it could just be the blood poured. Says the Gemara, meisvei. I'm going to ask you a kasha on this opinion that shchita by an oaf is only midirabanan and not midoraisa. Hashochev and it's navla biyado. Let's say you're shachting something, which the Gemara is going to assume is an oaf. Let's say you're shachting a chicken and it becomes a nevela, or hanocher v'hama'aker. If you do nechira on it, or if you tear the simanim pater milachasos, you're pater from doing kisoy adam. Well, kisoy adam is what? Deoraisa. Shchita, according to this opinion that we just said, on an oaf, is only midirabanan. Says the Gemara, if you tell me that Shchita is not midaraisa, I don't understand. If you don't need to do Shchita midaraisa for an oaf, so then if I do Nechira, I fulfill the Doraisa way of shechting it. So why should I not have to do Kisoy? Says the Gemara, you're right. If you would go in and do Nechira on an oaf, you would have to do Kisoy. What's this brisa talking about? You think this brisa is talking about an oaf? No. Lo bechaya. You're right, it's talking about a chaya. We just established a chaya needs shchita. So again, if you do shchita on a chaya, you need to do Kisoy Adam. If you don't do shchita on a chaya, if you do nechira or you do akira, which you're not supposed to do, then it's pater from kisoy. But in a chanami, if you would do nechira on an oaf, you would still have to do kisoy adam. So that pushes off the one. Tashma, one more, and then we'll stop. Tashma, hashoche v'tzarech ledam. Let's say you shecht an animal. We're assuming an oaf. You shecht an oaf and you need the dam. So you don't want to do kisoy adam now because you want to take all the blood that you just shechted. It's too bad. You can't just take the dam. You have to do the mitzvah of kisoy adam. So if you don't want to do the mitzvah of kisoy adam, what should you do? O nachro, o okro. You should do nechira or akira. Says the Gemara again. I understand if it's an oaf, if you do nechira, you're still going to have to cover it. My love ba'of de kabay l'demei linnicha. So the Gemara says it's obviously talking about an oaf, and you're doing the shchita, and it's saying you have to do the kisoy, even if what? Even if you do nechira. That doesn't make sense according to you. Well, first of all, are we not talking about an oaf that you would take the dam? What do you take the dam of an oaf for? Secret, in case you don't like mothballs. It says to get rid of the moths. If you want to get rid of your moths, just take the blood of an oaf and spray it all over your closet, and the moths will stay away. So is the Gemara not saying what? You'll have other problems. So the Brisa says is talking about seemingly an oaf. And you shech the oaf, if you do nechira on an oaf, you don't have to do kisoy. That doesn't seem to be with what you just said. You just said that it doesn't need shchita, therefore if you do nechira, it should need kisoy. Says Gemara, lo, no, it's bechaya. It's talking about a chaya again. That if you want the blood of a chaya, so what do? Then if you want to take the blood of a chaya, obviously you're not going to be able to eat it, but if you want the blood of a chaya, then you have to do nechira on the chaya. Again, it's not so much you could just do this, that you just kill an animal. But theoretically, if you don't want to do kisoy, you'd have to do nechira on a chaya. Since it needs shchita, if you do nechira, it's not going to need kisoy. And lemaisa, it's not talking about oaf, it's not a question. What do you do with the blood of a chaya? What do you do with the blood of a chaya? You take it and you use it to color the wool, so you'll have a beautiful shirt to wear to shul. Okay, have a wonderful day.